All right, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Chisholm City Council for August 12th, 2020. Good evening, everyone. Margaret, could you take roll call, please?
Councillor Lance.
Senator Harris then saying she's ready to get to work, and whenever she's had doubts about these times, she thinks about the doctors and nurses on the front line, the farmers, the factory workers. On racism and systemic injustice.
Mayor Champa, it looks like Councillor Lance is in the meeting, but he's not responding at this time.
Okay, just note that he's present.
Councillor Fountain.
Here.
Councillor Bakke.
Here.
Councillor Varda.
Present.
Councillor Campbell.
Here.
Mayor Champa.
Here. Adopt the agenda. People bear with me. We got a bunch of little minor corrections to make. Let me just go through it. So a few different emails you received throughout the week. So I just want to make some corrections as we go before we approve the agenda. Under 5C, item number 1, that should actually say 3rd Street Northwest project from the previous city council meeting. Under Larry's item, under B number 3, that's actually the refuse collection and equipment operator number 2 position. Under Mr. Manny, item number 2, the COVID plan for the arena, that's not ready to move forward with at this point. There was some mistakes, so we're going to bring it back to next meeting. Under myself, under the public safety building, by the time we connected with Scott Sasola, it was just too late to try to get him here tonight. So we're going to bring him to the next meeting, and I'd like to just have a follow-up discussion with him about what we discussed in our working session. So we'll remove those items, and we'll move that one to old business, or we'll put it as new business next time, but it'll be removed for now. And then some of you may have seen earlier today, April, who's part of our campground committee, sent an email wondering if we could take a couple items up. Let me read it to you. Please consider these items for tonight's meeting. 2 MnDOT signs for $449 a piece, $1,000 removal for white trailer at the campground site. I forwarded that to the council, and I gave my opinion that I believe that our administrator and the board can take those items up. That's for the most part, the housekeeping and everyday business. If you disagree with that opinion, I'd like to add them as the final item under my, actually we'd put it under, we'd put it under April. Council, how do you feel about that?
Mr. Mayor?
There are $1,000 are left, both of them.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Campbell. Maybe we could get from Bill Manny the purchasing powers of what the council has to approve and what we don't have to approve. Those are just housekeeping items. I think it's anything over 5,000 or 5,000 over comes to the council. Other than that, we don't have to see every little thing that goes on. I think I have a copy of that even from before, because this has been brought up several times in the past. But maybe we could get that information to all of us again, so that we know what has to be approved and what items do not have to be approved, and save us a lot of time. And also, I think one other item for the agenda was remove page 57 from the agenda for the town of Balkan letter regarding the Balkan canister recycling was another one.
Yes.
And then there was an item under Mandy Galley that item 781 that you missed. That's all I have.
Good. Yes. Okay. So yeah, under Mandy, we have that change where it's $9.99 instead of what was it, $49.99. So that was a change. I think Bill has that resolution at his fingertips, and the reason is because I asked about this town of Balkan. I said, where is the line? So we wanted to remove that town of Balkan at 16,000. If it needs to come to the council, we'll bring it back. That was a mistake. we won't add the campground unless somebody wants to, if they feel that that's outside the scope of the administration. But I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda with all those changes.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Counselor Campbell to approve the agenda with all the noted changes.
Second that, Counselor Fountain.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Fountain. Margaret, could you take roll? Anything else, Council? Margaret, could you take roll call, please?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, reports, council reports. Let's start with Jim. How you doing tonight, Mr. Varda?
Good. I don't have anything for report.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Fountain, report tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a report tonight. Good evening, everybody. It's been a productive August month, that's for sure. Adam and I have met with MAPE negotiations and had meetings with that. Two of them actually, with Mr. Manny and Mr. Lindsay. And then the city council had a working session for the public safety building with 5 bugles on August 5th. I just want the public to know that we're moving along there. Chisholm had our Dr. Moonlight Graham Days from August 5th through the 9th, which was a great success considering what we've all been going through in today's world. So thank you for everybody that put things on, and the parade and everything was great. As you all know, primary elections for the city were yesterday till 8 p.m. last night. I want to thank all the people who were able to set up, work the polls, disinfect, and make this available to our community with the guidelines stated for the governor. Also, the Chisholm School Board candidate filing period was from July 28th through August 11th. I did speak with Cheyenne, and this date was not extended, so I'm hoping that they got a few people that filed for that. Also, for any of you out there that have children that need dental work, there's going to be free services at the United Way of Northeastern Minnesota building in Chisholm to provide Smiles United Dental Care every week this month. And you can call and make an appointment. Sometimes that's really important, you know, to get your kids in. So Thursday, August 20th, United Way will be distributing free boxes of frozen Sloppy Joe meat, 3 5-pound bags in each box to anyone interested in Chisholm, which is wonderful. So thank you, United Way. Just another thing from the last meeting, you guys asked me to reach out to the Redhead Bike Trail person, and I did. And I did send an email to Mr. Manny today, and I think the mayor, just to let them know the manager would like to set up a meeting sometime in the future with the new EDA person. They did not release the administrative capabilities at this time to the city for the Chisholm Facebook administrator. So I think as soon as we have that meeting with them, they'll either they will let us be a part of that, or we just set up our own Facebook page, like Mr. Lance said. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Councillor Baki, report tonight.
Just a short one. I have a couple of miscellaneous items for afterwards, but I just want to thank the chamber for being brave enough to be the sole city to put on events this summer. I will be the first to admit that I was not happy when the parade route was designed and it was going to be a moving parade like it was. But I'll also be the first to eat crow and say that it went very well. So I was very pleased with how it went. I talked to some of the people who were in the parade, and they were very grateful that we were able to do something. So big shout out to the chamber. That's all I have.
Thank you, Travis. Councillor Campbell, report.
Yeah, a couple things. One big thing I want to do is congratulate the Chisholm Police Department and Vern. I'm very proud of you for the solving of the Nancy Well, for the big lead that happened, and I'm proud of this community and our police department. That's huge. Also, I attended a police commission meeting last Tuesday. We talked a little bit about where we're at with the hiring process and a little bit about this Nancy Doherty case of what he could tell us. Couldn't tell us much, but just, some things. Talked about the July Buell calls. There were 55 calls for the town of Buell, with an average time spent is 4.5 hours roughly per day. And I also attended the working session for 5 bugles on Wednesday, August 5th. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Lance, report.
Yeah, no formal report, but kind of just echoing everybody else. It's I tell everybody it's a great time to live in Chisholm. We're very proud of all of our employees in town. From the police down to the janitors. Everybody's working hard, and it's showing. We have a great community, so I'm definitely glad to be part of it. So, other than that, thank you. Yeah, the drive-in movie there tonight was great. People are really doing a lot of work trying to make things fun in Chisholm, and we got people coming from all over. Keewatin, Nashwauk came over to watch the parade. So there's different things that people are noticing. So keep up the good work, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Adam. I'll also echo how proud I am of the Chisholm Police Department for making the arrest in the Nancy Doherty case. I mean, it goes to show you that, they never put it behind them. There's people that served their entire career here that got hired after that happened that actually are retired. That's how long they've been working on that case. So I have to say I'm shocked, but I'm also happy. I hope the end result is closure for everything on that case. I wanted to start that way because, I am very supportive of the police and all our first responders. If you follow me at all on social media, you probably see that I do. I really believe that what some of the other communities are doing I think it's wrong. I think, in everything there are going to be some bad apples, and you need to take those on a case-by-case basis. With that said, I'd like to share with the city and everybody here that I'm getting very frustrated with the Minnesota State Patrol. Getting very frustrated. As you may recall, back a while ago, on behalf of the Iron Range mayors, we sent a letter to the Commissioner of Public Safety expressing our displeasure that there were state troopers actually patrolling our streets, which is the job of our local police departments. The head person over out of the Virginia office came over to Chisholm and met with Chief Manor and discussed that he does not believe that that is the job of the Minnesota State Patrol, that they should be out on the highways patrolling the highways looking for high speeds, drunken driving, no seat belts, things that are actually, unsafe driving, things that are going to get people killed because of the higher speeds. He also expressed to Chief Manor that he would be taking it up with the officer that was creating the biggest problem in our community. I can tell you I'm frustrated because I'm starting to hear about this officer as recently as last Saturday night sitting behind one of our bars and picking up a local business person. Person probably shouldn't have been drinking and driving if that's how it turns out. but it's frustrating when they're sitting in our town doing police work when that's not our job. It makes our own police department look bad. And I also believe that the types of stops the individual is making, they're questionable. When you're picking somebody up at 10 o'clock at night for a light bulb out on their license plate because you watched them leave the bar, I have a real problem with that. I just want to make that clear. I discussed it with the city attorney tonight and before the meeting, and I told him, at some point, if it continues, we're going to have to do something about it. Getting very frustrated. I want to support our own police department, and getting frustrated that we have an individual that just seems to feel the need to come into our community and, for the lack of a better term, harass our citizens. So, I'll put his name out there, Elijah Allen with the State Patrol. Marie, if you're listening, put it all over the front page of the newspaper. I'm not happy with the individual. He needs to get out and do his job. Enough with that. Unless somebody else has a comment. All right, we'll move on to brighter things. Building official. Good evening, Mandy.
Good evening,
Report
everybody.
tonight?
No formal report, just what I have on the agenda, please.
Can't say anything for Mandy. Thank you, Mandy. Jim Johnson, good evening. Report tonight?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and city administrator. Just a quick status update on our projects on our public safety building water main loop. That construction is all done. It was inspected yesterday morning by Larry, Leon, myself, and the project engineer from JPJ, and basically everything looks good. There's just a couple punch list items that deal with drainage and some seed, especially on the north end of the project that didn't germinate as it was supposed to. It's going to require some reseeding, but the basic project looks very good. 13th Street Northwest, most of the construction is done. What we're waiting for is the turf restoration subcontractor to get back in there, replace sod that had died, and then to complete the seeding that needs to be done on that project. Our 4th Avenue West reconditioning project is done except for the restriping of the pickleball court. I thought that sub-consultant was going to be in town today because I had volunteered to help him do the measurements to make sure that hopefully that it was done right this time. I heard nothing, so I don't think that's been done. And then just an update on our 3rd Street Northwest project. We will be bidding that electronically next Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. with hopefully the award of it 2 weeks from tonight at the council meeting. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Party engineer.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, 3rd Street Northwest, are we in to a bid opening process pretty soon? Is that where we're at on it?
Yeah, that's what I just announced. That we'll actually open bids electronically next Wednesday morning, the 19th, at 10 o'clock a.m. And then we'll be bringing the results to the council meeting in 2 weeks on the 26th hopefully for award of the contract.
Well, it's hard to keep up when you're thinking about 40 different things, eh? Thank you, Jim.
And Mayor, I need to probably, after the meeting kind of adjourns, I need to speak briefly with you, Brian, and Bill Manny with regards to the Novakovich easement or property acquisition.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Public Works, Larry. Good evening.
Hey, everybody. Just a couple updates. So keep it short and sweet. We got a couple things on the agenda. The new garbage individual carts will be ordered tomorrow. Me and Denise, I appreciate Denise's help and thank her for helping on that with me and the vendor as well. Very excited to roll that out. We pushed back the rollout to October 19th. And just to refresh everybody, that The yellow bags are required until the first of the year when we start our new enterprise fiscal year. And but you'll have your individual carts the week of the 19th. So the vendor is online, and everyone's very excited about it. Lots of positive reviews and comments. We appreciate that and your support. So besides that, and the reason why we pushed it back 2 weeks is manpower shortage right now in Public Works. We have 2 employees out on extended sick leave, and we're short 2 employees. In reference to my earlier statements about aggressive hiring schedule coming up soon, which I will present at the next council meeting after we get through this packet tonight. And the east entrance sign I wanted to share with all of you that was signed over to the city basically from the Chisholm Beautification Committee and Mrs. Gornick and that group. Beautiful sign, absolutely beautiful. Glad to be part of it and heading that up for the city. The placement, I met with Summit Signs. They handle the installation. They are out of Duluth, very professional, good group. As we anticipated, it's at a clump of trees there, just on the right of the stop sign. If you're coming up 4th Avenue, southeast there and hitting 169, we're going to remove the trees. It'll be just front and center if you're coming from Buell, coming that way into Chisholm, and it'll be lighted up. It's just going to be a beautiful sign. And then it doesn't interfere with the castle that's presently there as well. So any feedback on that, I appreciate it. If anyone thinks otherwise, but by recommendation of the sign company and that, that'll be the placement unless somebody says otherwise. We're in the middle of the arena LED upgrade project. I appreciate your support and Ed Chairman's support on that. Ed is equally as excited about it. That was the turnkey project where the minute Ed flips the lights, the city will start saving money on the electric bill. So appreciate that. And then the Way with Geese install is happening tomorrow, we hope. So a little bit of planning involved, finding an old raggedy boat that nobody cares if we hit a rock with, that type of thing. So we hope to have that fully installed by Friday. I did talk to one resident today that heard a rumor about noise. It has nothing to do with noise. It's just flashing light. It's a light strobe that the geese do not care for. It annoys them and they leave the area. I apologize though that we didn't get anything out to the public about it. I know we will receive calls as Vern and your folks this weekend at the police station. I'm sure we'll field calls. We'll field them on Facebook as well. But that project is moving forward, and that is the gist of it, what I have.
Thank you, Larry. Council, any comments on that? Jim? No? You looked like you were turning.
He did. He looked like he was going for the mute button.
He did.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, yes, Sabre.
I'd also like to thank Larry for all the hard work and dedication he's also put towards this campground. He's really been on top of everything, being short with, like he was saying, all these people down at the garage. And I really, really, really appreciate what you're doing, Larry. You're doing an excellent job. And thank you.
I appreciate that, April. And then to end that with some happy news, we didn't get to earlier because of our Zoom call I got. We are already full for Labor Day weekend, and that is including our overfull even. We had a big group of 7 separate ATV folks that come and filled up our group camping. So it's beyond capacity. So that's great. So.
Thank you, Larry. Fire Chief, good evening.
Good evening. Excuse me, Honorable Mayor, council members, city administrator, city attorney, fellow supervisors, and the public. I would also like to echo what many of you have said with the arrest at the Chisholm PD, Vern, Chief Manor, and your staff. I lived through that working on the ambulance service. All of us males, we were interrogated or interviewed, I should say, by that investigative team made up by Chisholm PD and the BCA. All of us had to be taken to the hospital for, at that time, it was a blood draw for DNA and stuff, but for many of us that worked with her, it's helped bring closure. Lots of rumors in our community throughout the years with that, so I think it's a positive thing that really helped our community. To date, we've had 2 calls for August, 14 and July, 99 total. This month we have 2 people. Jake Worley, one of my lieutenants, has 8 years of service, and Council Member Jim Varda has 10 years of service. The department's been very busy with a lot of trauma calls, assisting the ambulance service with setting up landing zones. Just a couple other quick things here. We assisted the county emergency manager. They had contacted me prior to that, getting that COVID testing. We participated this past weekend with the chamber with the parade, which I thought went a lot better than I thought it was going to be too. Echo what Councilor Vaki said. Our engine 1 has been out of town since a week ago Monday. We developed an issue with the pump that's been corrected at a considerable less cost than we initially had anticipated. But we also developed a recent problem with the tank, and they're currently working with the manufacturer of that tank, which has a lifetime warranty on it. So, and the other good thing for upcoming training for the department, and I'm happy to hear both of the property owners are in no hurry. We have upwards of 2 years with some of them. We've acquired 2 houses for training, one in town and one out in the township. Any questions for the fire department?
Council questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Library, Katie, are you on tonight?
Mayor, I don't show her as being on yet.
Okay, we'll move on. Police chief.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I know Katie was running late. She didn't have a report tonight, but she said she would log on later. Just 2 quick things. Thank you for the accolades in the Doherty case. I can't take all the credit. It was a good decision with a little bit of luck, and then followed up with some good old-fashioned police work by a great team that we had put together. But the police department can't take all of the credit. I would like to thank Administrator Manny. As this was going on, I've got to answer to someone too, and I needed the okay and the approval to do it. And he gave me the go-ahead to acquire the funds, and he put his faith and his trust in us that we had a shot at this, and it worked out. So, Administrator Manny, thank you very much for having that faith in us to bring this case to a closure. So he deserves a little bit of that too, because things go on behind the scenes that all come together and make it work. So a big thank you to him. The other thing quickly is just the brush pile we talked about the last couple meetings. Late last week, Larry and I got together to come up with some rules, policy, procedures for out there. We got it together late last week. I've been bouncing off everybody, and I didn't get on the agenda early enough, so we'll be bringing that to council next week. So other than that, any questions?
Council questions for the chief?
I got something. Chief, so kind of echoing what Mayor Champa was saying with the other law enforcement that drives through town, Hibbing, the sheriffs, the troopers, Virginia. We've had some really close calls on 3rd and Lake Street there. Now, when we did the landing zone, that trooper or sheriff, whoever it is that's in the SUV, he must have made that corner going with 60 miles an hour. If there was anybody in the street, they were dead. And I know you saw the Virginia cop come through a couple times, but it's reckless. I think there's younger cops getting a little too excited. I understand people got to get to an emergency quickly, but they're going to create something on their way. And I think that needs to be brought up if you have any of those meetings.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. And I'll make sure I address that. We have meetings with the different chiefs and the different, all even state patrol and sheriff. So I'll make sure we bring that up.
Thank you, Chief. Rec Director Tammy, report tonight.
Just a short report. We finally have our plans for the skating rink shack, and those have been sent out to the contractors, and those bids are due electronically on August 20th. So we'll hopefully have something for the council on the 26th meeting for approval for the build of the building. Just a little bit at our staff meeting today, we talked about flag football and youth center with the school not having it, and everybody closing down football, we had discussed that it's probably not a good idea to run it. And I know, Jim, you feel differently, and I understand that. And I do too in ways, but, you know, even the youth center at this point, you know, City Hall's not open and stuff. But we'll see how the school goes, and maybe we can open that youth center up hopefully soon. We have to go through our hiring process, but we have to do our due diligence in keeping liability against the city, and that's about it for me tonight.
Thank you, Tammy. Council, any questions on that? City Attorney report tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one minor update. I have been in contact with our former tenant of our lease space down in the basement. They've indicated to me, and they were fairly responsive when I reached out to them. They've indicated they've had some setbacks within their business, but that they're working to move the balance of their property out as soon as possible. And they've indicated that they'll reach back out to us with a more firm date in the very near future.
Council, any questions on that?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. This is Councilor Varda.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Didn't we set a date for them to be out already? I thought it was July 31st or 30th, whatever it was.
Yes, we did. Unfortunately, with the COVID, moving folks out of spaces becomes a little bit more precarious. And so our former tenants have been fairly good at staying in contact with us, and they've kind of had a good attitude about trying to work with us to get that stuff moved out. And so at this point, before we do anything more, I'd like to have at least one last conversation with them.
Oh, okay. All right, I thought we already did that, but okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Administrator Bell, report tonight.
Mr. Mayor, a few things. Informational for those of you that have not heard, the governor today extended his emergency peacetime declaration to September 11th. So it's basically extended out another month. Friendly reminder to the council, Monday, 6 p.m. is the joint meeting with the City of Hibbing and the Airport Authority. That will be via Zoom, and you will receive a Zoom invitation from the Airport Authority. And the last thing I have, I just want to thank all the election workers that worked yesterday. It's a long day when you report at 6 a.m. and you get done at, well, last night everything balanced out, so we were done about 9:30. But you know, it's a 15 to 16 hour day, and it's a long day. And things went very well. We had 765 voters we had actually 399 that voted at the arena yesterday, and we had 366 absentee or early voting, and for a total of 765, which is about 29% of our registered voters. So for a primary in August, above average turnout. Hopefully, the public, if you're watching and if you would like to vote early or vote absentee, it's very simple and straightforward. The general election in November is going to be really busy unless the COVID standards change. There's only 18 voters that will be allowed in that building at a time to create the proper distancing that we need to have along with the workers. So I anticipate people having to wait outside. Yesterday wouldn't have been a bad day to wait outside. November 3rd may not be so pleasant. So if you do not want to stand in line, I would strongly recommend that you sign up for absentee voting for the general election, because it's going to be busy and the line is going to be long. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll entertain any questions.
Council, any questions? Bill, I just would add to what you said, final numbers on the election, what'd you say, anything postmarked before Tuesday or is received before Thursday at 3:30 or something is still counted, something like that? I'll let you get the exact deal. And we don't actually have to canvass the results in Chisholm because we had no local election. Can you add to that if I missed anything there?
Oh, correct, Mayor. Because of the COVID, any absentee ballots that are postmarked by August 11th that we receive by tomorrow, we have to have a cutoff somewhere about the 3 o'clock range. We have to have our final vote tallies, the absentee ballots that come into St. Louis County by 3:30 is our deadline tomorrow. The county will be canvassing their votes on Friday, so they've given us a 3:30 deadline. So we received a handful today in the mail. I expect we will receive some more tomorrow, and we have to do some internal work to process those ballots. I'll make sure they're valid. I'll make sure that there are people that did not vote yesterday. So there's a double check in the system, and that needs to be the county by 3:30, and then we will have our final totals after that.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Bill.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Bill, you talked about encouraging people to do some absentee voting. How do they go about doing that? Can you just kind of give us a brief way?
Sure. Councilor Campbell, thank you for the question. They can contact, they can call City Hall, 254-7900. You can actually go online, and myself personally, I went online this year and signed up, and I wish I had that in front of me. But actually, even considering running some ads in the paper, making people aware of that, and put the website out there, and provide them with the information, because quite frankly, I thought it was going to be more difficult than what it was to sign up, and it really isn't. And we send out the information, and it's a pretty simple and straightforward process. So
thank you.
More to come, Councilor Campbell. Thank you for your question, because really want to work to educate the people, because I don't want a lot of people frustrated come November 3rd.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, we'll move on. Consent agenda. These are your list of bills. Communications, Fire Department minutes, Planning Commission minutes. Minutes of the previous City Council meeting, July 22nd, 2020. Public hearing for 3rd, it should say Street Northwest Project. July 22, 2020, regular meeting that actually has 2 corrections. If you look on page 6, under the 2 resolutions, the 2nd and 3rd from the bottom, they should both say street as well. That was in our communication. Payroll and overtime. So I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda with those corrections.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Lance.
Councilor Lance made the motion. Second for that.
Second.
Councilor Vaki. Any other discussion? Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Councilor Lance.
Aye.
Councilor Fountain.
Aye.
Councilor Vaki.
Aye.
Councilor Varda.
Aye.
Councilor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Unfinished business. We've been carrying this CARES Act funding just in case there's any update. Bill, you got any update or any things that you think you need to spend the money on that the council should know about yet?
Mr. Mayor, I do have an update. I expect at the next meeting to have an initial list from the consultants that the EDA has hired. As you recall, the EDA approached the council earlier for some financial assistance, and the council provided $25,000. The EDA did elect to purchase a number of masks for the school and for the community. So a good portion, or about, I'm trying to think of the exact amount. I think it was $12,500 was spent, and so there will be face masks coming for the whole entire community with that funding. But also part of that is working with the consultants to identify areas that are eligible for the CARES Act funding, and based on their conversations that they've had with the business community and finding some grants for some of the businesses and the good work that they've been doing, they're going to provide I'll just say a first wave of some recommendations for the council to consider regarding spending that money, because it's going to keep throwing this out there that the money basically has to be spent or allocated by November 15th, and that'll be here before we know it. So I will have the first list of recommendations from the consultants at the next meeting.
Council, any questions on that? Bill, did you see that email I forwarded from Rams today? I think there's something that went through the legislature where they're trying to free up what those funds can be used for. Something with the number 8 in that item says something about they loosened up that CARES funding, I think. Did you notice that at all or no?
Mayor, what time did you send that to me? I did not receive it, but I have to disconnect my internet to hook up the laptop for the meeting. So
no problem. Yeah, I'm not even sure. I think I got it here.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
It said something about they were going to do some here. So okay, enough on that. We'll move on. We got Mandy here, but these first 2 items are basically housekeeping items. We need to ratify both of these items. The first one is Resolution 0820-57, Pathfinder Snowmobile Club land purchase. That number was changed in the resolution. You got another resolution, I think, came later, but that number was $999. Mandy, is that correct? We're just ratifying it. Yes. So I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 0820-57 and ratify that and finalize that purchase.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move Resolution 0820-57, authorizing the conveyance of land purchase for $999.
Second.
A motion by Councilor Campbell, seconded by Councilor Fountain. Just to add to that, and then obviously upon the terms of the agreement, they'll get all but $1 back. Any other discussion? Margaret, take a vote, please.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Bakke.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Next one, Resolution 0820-58. If you recall, our people went down and met with the Rain Center, talked about them wanting to sell some half lots basically to the residences that are adjacent to their property. We did approve that, and we're just ratifying that planning and zoning request from Rain Center. Mandy, would that be correct?
That's correct, Mayor. The Range Center Legal Counsel is requesting the resolution.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like that motion for resolution number 0820-58, planning and zoning request application of Range Center Inc.
Okay. Support. Support by Councilor Lance. Motion made by Councilor Fountain. Further discussion? Margaret, please.
Councilor Lance.
Aye.
Councilor Fountain.
Aye.
Councilor Bakke.
Aye.
Councilor Varda.
Aye.
Councilor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Last item under Mandy, variance request from Tom Kachowski coming out of the Planning Commission. I'll let Mandy discuss that one.
The Planning Commission held a meeting on Monday, August 3rd at 4 p.m. The applicant, Tom Kuchowski of 204 6th Street Northwest, requested a variance to build a fence for a 0-foot setback. Usually the setback is 2 feet. In order to put the fence right on the property line, we do need a variance approved from the Planning Commission for 0 feet. The Planning Commission did approve it unanimously. Letters were sent out and we did not receive any feedback for or against the variance. So I would request that the council approve on the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve that variance.
I'll second that.
The motion by Councillor Lance, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mandy on that.
Sure.
Is that even legal to have a 0?
Yes, you can for a fence.
Okay.
If it was a structure and it didn't meet the setback, a 0 setback, it would have to be fire rated, constructed with fire rated.
Okay.
For a fence, you can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking. Good question.
Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Baki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Larry, this one's pretty much housekeeping too. Resolution 0820-59. We had an internal posting for water sewer utility worker. Gage Lustig applied for that job. Larry's just looking to appoint Gage. Is that correct, Larry?
Yeah, you can be more correct, Mayor. I'm not sure what camera you're seeing or if you're seeing me at all. My iPad seems to be a little froze up, but I appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone's support as we get through the aggressive hiring process. Like you say, I got to get the internal employees in the right spot, and that gives us our vacancies. And here we are with the first one is Gage Lustig to that water sewer utility position that you all supported last meeting.
Motion to adopt 0820-59.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. I have a question for Mr. Falstead.
Go ahead, April.
Campbell and seconded by Councillor Fountain. Go ahead, April.
Okay, so Gage is really good. You talked highly of him. Now, can he be cross-trained and continue to, if you needed him on for something on the for Class B on the tractor or whatever, a grader?
Yeah, exactly. I had that conversation with Gage already that, you know, although you'll be awarded this new position, you know, frankly, he'll get like a 60 or a 80 cent bump in pay, no matter, regardless of what he does. But he understands that he has to support Public Works right now until we get fully staffed again. I mean, he needs to train the new employees as well, and we need everyone to be welcome. And we got we have an aggressive fall this year with the rollout program with the new cans and the refuse and stuff. So he's well aware and supportive, and he's been really good. So I have no doubts.
Don't say anything
else. So if you need them this winter, right? He could go plow if you need it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The one thing we do, and I really appreciate, I have 12 employees and again, 24 personalities, but 12 employees. And, everybody comes together when it snows. We do a lot of things, but when it snows, we all plow. All 12 people plow. And, it's really fun. It's a big team. It's kind of everybody gets together, even though you don't see each other every day, but you see each other on a plow. So you couldn't be more correct. He'll have his own plow route. And he even asked me about, am I going to lose opportunities on overtime and stuff for plowing? No, you won't. You'll get a plow route like everybody else. So I appreciate that.
Council, anything else? Yeah, I'll just comment. Everything Larry's kind of bringing to us right now with the new employees, we're thinking of the big picture and how people can help each other and be available to help. That's why some of these job descriptions are getting rewritten a little bit. So we believe that at the end of the day, they're all city employees and we need to be able to use them if we can. So,
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment for Larry.
yep, go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
Hey, Councilor Varda. Great. Thank you.
Good. Just a little note. I would not be surprised if we have applicants from a city just a little bit south of us. So
I've been hearing the same thing.
All right.
And it's because we take care of our people and we got a good crew, you know?
All right, Margaret, could we take a vote, please?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion passes. Larry, I'll let you take the next one. Job description for refuse collection, heavy equipment operator number 2. Is that what it's supposed to say exactly?
Yep, you're exactly right again, Mayor. And this is again, even to Councilor Fountain's discussion about how all of our employees are used throughout the city, and when things come up, we all help each other. This is the second garbage truck operator, refuse, when it comes to the budget and GL there. He would be a 0.4, 0.6, and so then he's crossed between different departments. He helps in the garbage and refuse department as well as other areas in the city as a heavy equipment operator. So I have rewritten the position as I have every other position that's came through since my hire, and we've really just incorporated all the current work and future work that we expect in the city, and we've gotten away from the old job descriptions that really don't really fit the work that we do in 2020. So looking for your support for the position as in your packet and as in posted.
Mr. Mayor, I'll approve that request for job description for the refuse collection heavy equipment operator number 2.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Campbell, supported by Councilor Lance. Discussion, Council. Further discussion.
Good job, Larry.
Thank you. Appreciate that. The one thing I'm missing here, I apologize that I didn't mention, and should be just noted that we would like to post immediately for that position. And I appreciate Margaret for getting that ready and on Bill's desk to be signed in the morning if council supports to post that immediately internally. So,
Larry, is that item number 3?
Well, on mine.
Mayor, it is on the revised agenda. It is item number 3.
Okay, I apologize. I got the paper packet here, Mayor Champa. So you could be right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Okay, so we need to take a vote on number 2. So Margaret, could we do that first?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, so the second part of this is we want to post that new job description internally and appoint a hiring committee if posting externally.
I'd like
Larry,
to make that.
for the posting or the hiring committee would be so that you can go right on to an external posting if the internal goes unanswered.
That's right. Yeah. In the chance, there's always that chance. Things are day to day. People's lives change day to day. So we feel like this is a job, a progressionary job. We feel that's in job advancement for an employee that it'll be accepted and taken. But in the rare instance that isn't, we would like to be prepared and to keep moving forward. So I would request that we just do set up that hiring committee just in case.
Yourself, Bill, and one counselor, is that what we normally do?
I believe so. Yeah.
Bill, does that sound right? Tracy, she's good at this.
Yes,
I'll
Mayor.
volunteer.
That is correct.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, so motion to post internally for the water or the
Second, refused, yeah.
Heavy equipment operator number 2, right?
Correct.
And
Motion.
externally post, if that goes unanswered, externally post and set up a hiring committee of Councillor Campbell, Administrator Manny, Larry. I think that's it. That's the motion we'll look for.
That's the motion you got, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councillor Fountain, second
Support.
by Councillor Walkie.
Support. Yep.
Any other discussion? Margaret, please.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Baki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. And that motion passes. Larry, LED upgrade for traffic lights, Lake Street intersection of 1st and 3rd Avenues.
Thanks, everybody. Again, I was, I thought I was out of low-hanging fruit, and then I was inspired by MnDOT. MnDOT came to town and upgraded the 3rd Avenue intersection in front of Katie there at the library and Bob at the fire hall there. And they upgraded all theirs to LEDs, and then I asked the question to Minnesota Power, their rebate experts and our supporters, that if we upgraded our 1st Avenue one, and as it turns out, since we pay the electric bill on both intersections, we will be prized with the total rebate of both intersections besides the energy savings, which in your package shows a 6-month payback, which is, again, phenomenal when you can flip the switch and be paid back totally in 6 months and then reap the benefit for 10, 20 years, whatever the life of the bulbs. So I ask for your support in that. We've been doing an excellent job this year and at the Minnesota Power level for rebates for community. And I will share with the council, it's my plan to share with the council before the outgoing council of Councillor Campbell and Varda to share a report on the LED upgrades that we've done and what's coming back to the city. So I ask for your support in this project, one of the smaller ones, but again, a 6-month payback.
I'll make a motion to approve the LED upgrade for the traffic lights in the total amount of $4,500, half paid by MnDOT, half by the city, with a 6-month payback.
Support.
Motion by Councillor Vaki, seconded by Councillor Campbell, I believe. Larry, is that the right motion?
Yep, correct. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Council, any other comments?
I have a question for Larry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Larry, with these upgrades, is it possible for you to investigate how much attaching EMS alert cameras on top of them, so when a cop car or an ambulance or a fire truck is coming, the light changes?
I could do that. I got an excellent contact with MnDOT. I can do that. You bet. That's when it takes priority, correct? When it senses signals or whatever. Okay. Yep, I can ask. Yeah, you bet.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Jim. Okay, we got a motion and support. No further discussion. Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Aye. Good job, Larry.
Councillor Baki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell. Aye. Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Larry, for all of that. Moving on, Jim. Department head reviews.
I should have told Margaret no for this, but I don't want to lose the chance to actually get this done before Council Campbell and myself are out. So I wanted to keep it in my mind if nobody else is, so we don't forget about this.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Campbell.
I do think, Jim, that needs to be done myself. We do have to have some kind of review process, but at the same time, we need to have expectations and goals set up for our employees in order to review them, in order to grade them and measure their progress. So we have to get something in place for this to happen. We've talked about this a lot, I know, over the years, and there's systems out there, different programs that, you know, that can be used. But just to review somebody with not having any measurable goals or any kind of expectations forthcoming to them beforehand is really irrelevant until we get something in place. But I do believe we need to do it. You know, it's definitely something that has to be done. We just have to figure out what kind of a system we want to put in place in order to do this.
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
and Tracy, maybe you guys can help me with this question, and Jim. So don't we have something in place already to review, like we had to review Jim Johnson, like our department heads? Isn't there something in place, like even when we have to review Bill or Mr. Manor, you know, is there something in place already?
No, there's no program. We you know, in order to do a real professional review, we should actually they should actually fill out paperwork of what the expectations they want from us too. And we need to have goals development plans, you know, for employees where you rate their performances, where you have some kind of expectations set up for them that you can actually have measurable goals. And we don't have any of that, so.
So from my perspective, I think you're spot on there. I think that is something that maybe, you know, once the EDA person is started, I think Bill and Elaine could do that, sit down with them and come up with some goals or find a, but I would also like to see, I wouldn't mind talking, at least having a conversation with each department head, just even if it's just a conversation between the council and them. I just think that before you guys, you know, are done, I would like to personally see that myself. It doesn't have to be an official review if you don't want to look at it that way, but I think a conversation with each at minimum would be a good thing. Just my thoughts.
Council, anybody else? All right, I'll chime in. I'm going to chime in.
I got one more thing, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, Mr. Manny. Are you able to look into a software program that, like, Councilor Campbell was talking about, or like a point system?
Councilor Fulton, to answer your question is, I believe those are out there, but to me the challenge becomes every community, every situation is a little bit unique. I mean, you know, would probably be some type of generic system that would have to be customized for us. And normally these things go through some type of HR department, which we do not have. Yeah, something to think about. But yeah, I mean, we can look and see what's out there and report back.
Bill, I think you could also I think we could put a committee together, a council member or two, yourself and you know, Elaine or whoever, and just come up with some questions and just make it our own. We could also do that too.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I've given all kinds of stuff already. I don't know, Bill, if you still even have it. I've handed it off to several different administrators as they've come through, and it's kind of got lost through the shuffle. Just what Travis was saying, there's questions, there's all kinds of different things. You know, maybe you could dig for that stuff. I don't know if I have it anymore even, but there's all kinds of different things out there to use.
Council, let me come at this a little different direction. I think of things sometimes a lot different than other people. When I look at the general makeup of the city and how we all operate together as one working unit, I look at the council kind of at the top of the pyramid. We're the governing body. We appoint officials. We have an administrator. We have a deputy clerk. We have a fire chief that we appoint. We appoint a couple other people that are actually appointed. Our engineer is one of them. Mandy's one of them. And I look at those individuals as our direct employees. And when we reappoint them, we review them. We try to review them as part of their reappointment. When I take the next step, and I believe, in my opinion, it's the next step, somebody like Chief Manor, Supervisor Katie at the library, Larry in the city garage, I actually believe they're one step below, and they should be, not that I'm against the council having general discussions on goals and performance discussions. Those are always good, but I believe, in my opinion, and I expect Administrator Manny to be looking at their performance on a daily basis and making sure that they're fulfilling the obligations of the city and the direction that the council would expect them to be going. So I would hope that on a daily basis they're being reviewed. So if I looked at this step below our appointed officials, I'd be looking at it more of general discussion, more like Travis mentioned, that we should be looking at our administrator to make sure he's got them in the right direction. But if we're lacking something, or we think we should look at other things, I certainly am not against that, of course. But I really look at it as a step basis, and to me it would be like us saying, well, maybe we should review the employees too. And if they're Larry's employees, I expect him to be reviewing them on a daily basis too and making a corrective action. So the only thing I want to say is I feel like we have a flow chart here, and I don't want to lose sight of that. And I'm not against anything. I'll talk about anything. And if it's going to help the situation, I certainly will do it.
I think you're exactly right, Mr. Mayor. The hierarchy, the contract employees that we appoint are definitely the ones that we should be reviewing. But whoever falls under Bill Manny, his department heads, I think it's up to him to review and have goals and stuff in place for them. And if he asks the council for input, definitely, have that conversation.
Let's think a little bit more about it with all we've said. Anybody else want to chime in? I mean, like I said, I'm not against it. We're going to start a budget process here. We're going to have every department head sitting right in front of us, and it'll give you an opportunity to critique their performance at that time. That's a good time. I think it's a good time to critique a performance while we're talking about their budgets and where they're doing good, and maybe other things we can look at, things like that too. So if we have nothing else, we'll move on that item. Okay, Jim, the next items, you have job descriptions. I'll just let you kind of go through what you...
Yeah, okay. As Councilor Campbell remember, I brought this forward 2 years ago to get the officers underneath the chief monthly stipend. And she was right, I was not prepared enough for it, so I wanted everybody to get a chance to look at the job descriptions. And at the next meeting, I hope to have on the agenda the amount I have in mind for each one of them. So this is just for you guys to review them and go over them, so you have more information. So that's all that was.
Jim, let me comment. Some days I think I know everything, but I'm smart enough to know I don't. Do our officers not get extra money now?
The assistant chief does, but I think he needs to be upgraded, because you can even ask Chief Brown. The officers are doing more and more of the training stuff and taking on more responsibilities. I think he would agree with me, but in my eyes, they're not getting. They all deserve a monthly stipend for what they're doing.
Okay. Good. Well, I certainly would welcome you putting it on a future agenda. Like I said, even if it doesn't happen this year, we're going to start the budget process like in a month here.
Another point that I forgot to mention, I discussed it with Jason Worley, who is our budget person, and he said our budget would easily handle this, not without a problem. So
you got extra money.
No, but it would handle this.
Hey, we got it. Okay, so those are that's informational at this point. Council, any other comments on that?
Yeah, Mayor Champa.
Yep, go ahead, Adam. I figured you might want to chime in since you're a firefighter as well.
I would just like to add, on that what these officers do and the responsibility that they take on, to have no compensation extra, and nobody's doing it for the money, and absolutely not. But these guys take on a lot more responsibility when they go home. They take a lot more on a fire scene. They take a lot more planning and responsibility. So it's something to really think about. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Anybody else before we move on?
Thanks, Jim.
Yep. All right, we'll move on. And that was informational. Those we'll take them up at the stipend part at a later date here. Travis, second reading, ordinance number 74, amending city code parking schedule.
Yeah, so we discussed this at the last meeting. We approved the first reading of the new calendar parking. Hopefully we get this second reading done so we can start educating the public on the changes. And so with that, I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the new parking schedule calendar parking ordinance.
Okay, second for that.
Or Councilor Lance.
Second by Councilor Lance. Council, other discussion on that item? Okay, Margaret, take a vote.
Mayor Champa, if I may say one thing.
Yep, go ahead.
It will not be published in the newspaper until the 26th. Maria's out on vacation this week.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Lance.
Aye.
Councilor Fountain.
Aye.
Councilor Bakke.
Aye.
Councilor Varda.
Aye.
Councilor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Just to reiterate what Margaret said there, it needs to be published before it becomes a real ordinance. So, all right, moving on. Ordinance number 94-05, nuisance parking and storage.
Okay, so this is more of a discussion to get everyone's thoughts on the nuisance parking and storage ordinance. So, quick history. I was contacted by a community member who across the street from his residence, somebody is parking trailers, and there's no sidewalks, there's no driveway, there's no. It's basically just an empty lot. And when I spoke to Chief Manor and also to building specialist Mandy Galley and also Larry Bolstad, basically I came up with 4 different interpretations of what this ordinance reads. So what I would like to do, and after I talk with Brian, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, what I would like to do is hear your thoughts on this ordinance, and then Brian and I or whoever would go back and look at this with the recommendations of the council on the way that they would prefer that it read. And then I think, Brian, I'm going to let you hop in here in a second. You mentioned something about opening it up to public input as well. So I'm going to let Brian hop on before everyone else gives their thoughts.
Thank you. And Mayor, if I may, essentially what what the issue we've run into is, and I think that Councilor Vaki highlights it pretty well. This, the way that this current ordinance is written, there's a couple of different ways you can interpret it, because the ordinance is clearly geared toward residential neighborhoods and seems to look toward the existence of a dwelling house on the or a dwelling or a house on the property, but it isn't real clear about whether or not the conditions of that ordinance would apply to a property merely by its existence in a residential neighborhood. And as the policy setting body for the city and for our enforcement efforts, I think it's appropriate, and I think Councilor Vaki very appropriately brought this back to the council so that the council can weigh in on how the council would like to see this ordinance applied, or whether we may need to amend or change the ordinance to make it more clear on the application. Just so that I know a lot of times in these situations, if there's a little bit of vagueness within a statute, it puts the chief in a tough spot. It puts our building official in a tough spot to come in, because they will give a directive to a resident, and everybody wants to argue about the meeting. So having a little bit of clarity and having a discussion about how the council would like this this addressed, I think will give a lot better ability for the chief, Ms. Galley, and myself eventually, if it ever got that far, to enforce the provisions and make sure that the wishes of the council and the wishes of the community as a whole are honored.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Travis, what is it you would like to have changed, the way what's worded? I mean, do you have some ideas on what you want to do here?
So I guess so if you took a chance to read through this, basically I think what we need to come up with is whether or not we believe in order to store something, do you need either a building there, or do you just, if you buy 4 lots, according to this ordinance, you can park 4 vehicles per lot. So that the person could buy 4 lots and have 16 trailers parked right in a row, right? So do we want to allow that, or does there need to be something different? Because that's really the gray area here. The community member that I talked to, he's called the DNR. He's done whatever he can, and I can't give him an answer as far as if he's right or if the person who's parking trailers there is right. And I certainly don't want to create a problem for people, but I think that this needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And, I don't know if maybe this time, maybe it's informational and everyone goes back, reads through it, brings their recommendations here. I certainly don't want myself to be the one that makes decisions. So that's why I kind of wanted to bring it for a discussion. And then if there is a majority or a way that you guys want to go, then the action would come in to have Brian and myself and maybe Bill or Vern and Mandy get together and amend it.
Would this be something that the planning and zoning would look at and recommend to the council, or is this something that we tackle on our own?
Mandy?
This really wouldn't be an application for planning and zoning unless I think we want to get Vern involved, because the police department actually enforces 94.05. There's only 4 chapters in the code that planning and zoning does enforce, and that's land use. And this is under chapter 94, actually. I don't know, Vern, do you want to pipe in?
I guess if you look at the highlighted, especially part B, like if you go under 3B, it says vehicles that are parked or stored outside in the front yard area must be on paved or gravel parking or driveway area. Okay, well, if that's the way you interpret this ordinance, then those trailers are all parked illegally. If you look at, a different letter on here and you read it and then you think, okay, well, it's for vehicles and technically he's allowed to park there. So that's where, I just think that if, maybe it's just Brian looking through it and making a recommendation to us. I don't know which way you guys want to go, but I didn't feel comfortable with a community member who came to me and me not coming to you guys to get at least your opinions on it.
I know that I certainly feel that all these cars parked on boulevards, and I mean, it's just, that's why these ordinances exist, is to keep people, to keep property values and stuff up there in the city. I mean, in the country, yeah, you can do what you want with that, but in the city, it's a little bit different, and that's why some people choose to live in the city, is because we have ordinances and stuff in place for just exactly this. I don't like blight. I mean, I think a lot of it we don't enforce and we should enforce, and we have these ordinances in place for a reason, and it's sometimes we enforce it, sometimes we don't. The problem is we change all these things. Are we going to enforce them? I mean, I think this does need to be changed. I mean, my God, look at it. I mean, it says 3 different things in 3 different sentences here, And then once these do get changed, do we upload these new ordinances to our website? Because that's where people are going to get this information half the time too. So, but I support your change on this, whatever you want it to be. Maybe we could have a little committee or something and sit down and look at this if that's how you want to do it, and bring it back to the council, or everybody submit something. I don't know.
Yeah, Travis, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
I was also approached by the same community member, and I can understand how he thinks it's blight, because it's blight to him. He's used to looking at some trees and woods, and there's 4 empty lots across the street. I believe they were county tax forfeit at the time. So then you talk to the individual across the street, like, hey, why are you parking your trailers here and your cars? They're all licensed, they're all operable. Everything runs. He uses a work trailer, he uses a boat. And he's like, why is everything parked out here anyways? Well, he owns a small lot across town, so he bought this lot and he was going to put up a garage. Well, because of our city ordinances, you can't put up a garage unless you put up a house. So, and I kind of went back to the other, the complainant, and I said, well, why didn't you buy the property when it was for sale? And his response was, because nobody's going to buy it, you can't build there, it's a wetland. So now we have an individual who put 4 lots back on the tax roll, and we have another individual who doesn't like looking at his work trailers. So this is both, it doesn't benefit the town if somebody's not going to buy a lot and it's going to stay vacant and nothing's going to happen with it. I mean, I would rather somebody be able to put up a garage than, if he's in his lot's too small where he's at. So maybe we need to change another ordinance so this one goes away. Or, write it differently where there is some kind of leniency and somebody can park somewhere. But, so you can't please everybody. But again, you had 3 different people on this block that have a problem with the blight issue. They all could have bought that property themselves and not have to worry about it, but they didn't, so it wasn't on the tax roll, and the city gained nothing from it.
Brian, Mr. Attorney, is there any obvious things in this ordinance that you think you could do your magic on and clean it up so it allows the chief to at least not have trouble enforcing real blight? Some of this fully licensed vehicles and everything else, it becomes a very gray area, but if it's blightful, if that's a word, I don't even know if it's a word, I'll create it just now. We also have to be able to clean things up. So I don't know this situation. They didn't call me, so I didn't look at it, but thoughts?
When I was called by the complainant, I went and looked at it. I myself didn't think it was blight. There's a work trailer, a boat that's on a trailer. He uses all the equipment. It does rotate. So I mean, we need, if this person would put up a garage if we let him, but he can't afford to put up a house. So maybe we look at some different ordinance where if you own a house in town, you're able to put up a garage on a different lot, because not everybody has the benefit of buying a big enough lot available to them at the time.
Travis, years past, you know, this is my second time around. We used to allow variances to build a garage as long as they were positioned in a manner in which a house could be built at a later time. We'd push it to one end or the other. A lot's changed since I was here last time, so I don't know how Mandy feels about that or what's been done since then. But we did it. Normally, that was our criteria. If it was pushed to one end or the other, so that you know, a house could be put in there, we usually did allow a variance. So.
Yeah, and I'll just say that I don't have a problem either way we go. It does not make a difference to me personally. But what I need is to be able to tell that homeowner, this is the way the ordinance reads. This is what it means. I'm sorry, it's not what you want, but this is the way that the ordinance reads. And so at least then it's not like I'm just putting off telling him, you know, giving him a clear answer. And that's really what I'm looking for, is just to clean this up. I mean, you know, longer than 24 hours in the front area of a residential property, unless more than 100 feet back. Well, he can't go 100 feet back. So, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of things, and I didn't even know until I actually read this, you know, but when you read it, you can get 4 different opinions.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mandy.
If the council wanted to go that route, what we could do is rewrite the ordinance and allow a conditional use permit for a garage on a lot without a dwelling. And like John had said, conditions would be set forth on that permit to allow space for a house, and the planning commission would approve that with conditions, and then it would be subject to council approval after that. If they wanted, if we wanted to go that route.
Travis, how about we kick this one to the next council meeting? We just absorb it for a couple of weeks and we think about it a little bit. Maybe Brian and Vern will have some ideas on if this is creating enforcement issues or any lawyering we can do to this thing to clean it up better.
I'd like to hear what the attorney does have to say about this.
Brian, you got it.
Mayor, one of the things that we may be able to look at, and I think what, for me, from an enforcement standpoint or from a citizen standpoint in knowing your rights, I think one of the easier fixes that we could make to this particular ordinance is we could create 2 subdivisions, one that specifically addresses developed properties and one that addresses what type of storage or parking would be considered nuisance parking and storage on undeveloped properties. That way we're not having references to things like front yards and backyards, and it would be very clear. You know, one option that could be available is to allow on an undeveloped parcel or undeveloped set of parcels to allow a certain amount of parking and then maybe some additional parking if there's some screening implanted or something along those lines that's in line with the spirit of what we have on the books right now, but gives a clear answer to these more unique circumstances that arise with undeveloped parcels in residential neighborhoods.
Council, what do we want to do with this?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question or a comment about this.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Councilor Campbell, did we not have this a couple of years ago with somebody parking cars or trucks in somebody's yard, and the decision was to have them put a fence up or something?
God, I believe we did have something like this more than once, and each case has been just handled differently, if I remember right. And I don't know. I can't recall exactly which property it was and what we did, but.
Hey, Travis, in that stuff you're reading, is there anything about a fence installation for this?
As a requirement, I didn't read anything that says that would require them to put one up.
Okay.
I do like the thought of separating developed and undeveloped properties.
Yeah, I like that.
Mr. Mayor, can we have the attorney draw up a new ordinance with those 2 different scenarios? and maybe present it at the council meeting next week for us to review?
Brian, is that something that's possible to do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I can. I'll create some additional language that kind of separates the two provisions, and I'll look around and see what I can find as far as guidance for just a starting point discussion, and then with that information, the council can give us further direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Chief Manor, can you work with the attorney as well to make sure that if there's some enforcement issues that you see with this ordinance, that we make sure we get them in that new language as well?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so council would be looking for a motion to direct us to the city attorney at this point to try to bring us some more clear language back in those different scenarios.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Who made the motion, Travis?
Yeah.
Motion by Councillor Vaki, seconded by Councillor Lance. Further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote to direct it to the attorney. Margaret?
Councillor Lance?
Aye.
Councillor Fountain?
Aye.
Councillor Vaki?
Aye.
Councillor Varda?
Aye.
Councillor Campbell?
Aye.
Mayor Champa?
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for working through that. Bill? Balkan Fire Ambulance Contract, page 56, Council.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, looking for council support on, this is an extension of an expired contract. I would like to thank Fire Chief Brown and Public Works Supervisor Folstead for their help and assistance with this. Balkan Township has been paying $2,853.96 per month under an expired contract. And so this is making it formal that what is currently being paid is under contract through the end of this year. Prior to the end of this year, this contract will be renegotiated and brought to the council for a new contract starting in 2021. With that, I would entertain any questions.
Bill, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, all right. So correct me if I'm wrong, but how much did we budget to give them? Because I know when we budgeted for this new program, we included an amount for allowing them to expand. Did we pay them that amount?
He's under on contract.
Are you talking about the compost site? What are you referencing? The compost?
The recycling.
The recycling? I'm sorry.
Hold off of here.
Yeah, but to answer your question, as part of the new garbage plan, there is a budgeted amount for the resizing of Balkans Recycling Center. And that comes from the fact that we expected Balkans quantity of recycling to increase and that the existing site was not going to be big enough. So we had budgeted $20,000 for expanding that site, and that has not taken place or is a work in progress. So we have not paid anything yet, but we budgeted $20,000, and the amount that Balkan is telling us it's going to cost to expand the site is about $16,000, one-time cost.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill,
Mr. Mayor, I'll support the fire ambulance contract with Balkan through December 31st, 2020 for $2,853.96 per month, or $34,247.52 annually, and to be renewed in 2021.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Campbell to renew that contract. Second for that.
Support.
Supported by Councillor Lance. Further discussion?
Bill,
I have a question.
Bill, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bill. I was looking at the wrong page in my packet.
No, that's fine.
My bad. My bad.
No, that's fine because it's a legitimate question that ties into another project, so that's fine.
And I goofed you up. Go ahead. Somebody had a question for Bill?
I had a question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Jim.
Was Councilor Campbell's motion to redo this contract, same contract next year, or did I mishear it?
No, just for this year.
For this year, and then it's going to be renegotiated in 2021.
Okay. All right. I misheard you. Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote, Margaret.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Bill. Resolution number 0820-60 on page 65. Let me look at what we thought here. We did not. August 12th. August 12th until. So, hey, Brian, let me ask you a question, as long as you're on here with us. The governor's order, I think Bill mentioned back earlier in the meeting that his is through September 11th. Our meetings are on the 9th and the 23rd. We're not going to know anything on the 9th. Can we extend ours all the way out to the 23rd contingent on the governor, his staying in effect past the 11th? And then we'll take it up later? Or what do we do? How long can we go?
We could, Mayor. We could go out that far. And then I believe that the way that ours is drafted is that ours would expire on its own terms as if the governor withdraws his.
Okay. Council, before I ask for a motion, I'm just going to ask Brian one more question. Brian, I asked you a question earlier when we spoke on the phone. Well, what would happen if we didn't extend this? What's hurting us, or what's the hurt? You know, can you give me that just to council a little spiel again one more time, just to remind everybody? So we're not just doing this to push a pencil down the street farther.
Sure. So the two, I mean, there's a lot of things that flow from the declaration of an emergency, but in the present case, the two most important things that flow from that declaration are number one, it in certain circumstances, it can reduce the requirements for contracting for things that may come up as emergencies or immediate need. It allows us a little bit more flexibility in entering into contracts to protect the public health. But number two, and maybe more importantly, is the declaration of emergency gives us the potential for access to some alternate and additional funds, emergency funds, that without that declaration, we may not have access to. The converse, or the flip side of it, is the way that our declaration of emergency is set up. We're really implementing those portions of our emergency response that are required or necessary. And so in terms of day-to-day operations, if we don't have any necessary changes, it allows us to continue to function essentially as we usually do, except for those places where we need to make some alterations to accommodate either an executive order or some abrupt emergency that arises suddenly.
All right. Council, I'd like to entertain a motion then just to extend the emergency power, or our local emergency till September 23rd, unless earlier canceled by subsequent action, basically, which would mean the governor's expiring.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilor Lance. Second by Councilor Fountain. Bill, when you looked over at your calendar, did that sound right?
Yes, 20. I just needed to double check. 23rd is correct.
Okay. Anything else on that? Where could you take vote, please?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye.
Mayor Champa, if I may, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Missed item number E2, the COVID-19 plan for the arena.
Margaret, we removed that from the item because there were some mistakes in it, and Bill's going to bring it back to the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you for letting me know.
Yep. All right, Council, that motion passes. Last item on the agenda. I'm sure a number of you, when you seen this, probably went to, oh, Lord, what are we going to do here? As you remember from last year, many of you do, the Schnorr Mud Fest is geared around our veterans. They work with veterans organizations that last year they took them to a number of different events, hunting, fishing, things like that. This year they're pairing up with Fishing with Vets as a main sponsor of it. As you may remember, if you attended it last year, the primary event, we did allow them to close the main street, and the primary event after hours was held in Tom and Jerry's bar, where they held raffles and ate dinner and whatnot to riders. The request this year is a little bit different, obviously, because of the COVID-19 and the concerns surrounding it, the governor's orders that are currently still in place and very possibly could be at the time of this event. The request was made because, number one, the event cannot be held within the confines of Tom and Jerry's legally as the governor's order. There's not enough room for the people. The social distancing doesn't allow for it, things like that. That's the reason the organization is asking, Mr. Schnorr is asking to allow us to close off the main street and call it a citywide festival so that the event can be held outside. Obviously, these types of events include some consumption of alcoholic beverages, and that's the main thing. Other than because of the social distancing and the requirements in places such as Tom and Jerry's bar, they need to completely change things up, and it would, when drinks are served or food is served, it would be, especially the food, it would be in one door, get your food, get back outside. And you know, work with Tom and Jerry's to keep the amount of people in the bar down to a level that's consistent with the governor's orders. In doing that, the need is to put up things like tents and stuff like that, so if it has inclement weather, that they can still hold the event. Very difficult. That's why we have it in front of us so early. A lot of planning has to go into this if they're going to do it. I spoke with the city attorney earlier today, and basically my question was, can we even do this? He mentioned that an outdoor gathering, has limited amount of people, but we got indoor gathering, we got outdoor gathering, we got 3 complete city blocks. It could be separated out in a fashion that creates a number of different areas. They don't expect many more than 200 people at this event. That's about what they had last year. We're in a whole different world. Typically an event like this would go up in numbers each year, and expectedly it would have this year, but with COVID and things like that, there's obviously some concerns. Participation has been down in everything, even that has been held for the most part. So, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see us allow this as a citywide festival. I'd like them to keep proceeding with the event. We're going to know more by the time this event comes around. And I would like the thing also directed to the city attorney to forward to, say, City Administrator Manny, his concerns about the event, so they could be forwarded on to the promoters of this event to come back to us with a plan on how they're going to ensure that the governor's orders are basically adhered to. as part of this. So,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, Councilor Campbell.
I'd kind of like to see a plan, what their plan, I mean, for all these people, how they're gonna abide by all these restrictions. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of restrictions. I mean, just to go ahead and authorize, I mean, I support it, of course I do. I mean, it's a great event, but at the same time, we got a community to think about too, that we have to protect from this COVID. And we've done everything by cancel pretty much the rec programs and stuff in town and football. I mean, I'd like to see a plan before I can support or vote on this as a citywide festival. That's just me though.
I would support Saturday, September 19th with fishing around the lake, because you can extend it where everybody's. But I agree with Councilor Campbell with a plan in place. We can't make a decision on this. You don't want these veterans getting COVID or spreading COVID to around up here either. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
Was there ever a response from Attorney Lindsay as far as separating ourselves with like the COVID plan, like we require the other city entities to have?
Brian, why don't you respond to that right now, as long as we're having this discussion? Adam is asking about my email with regard to when I brought up the chamber, I brought up the ATV club, and what your thoughts are on that.
So, Councilor and Mayor, my response to that question is sort of straightforward. As far as private organizations holding private events, I don't believe that there's a lot of authority on the part of the city to go in and dictate to them outside of, if we get called down for an incident, to dictate to them what their plan has to be. I think there's a situation, though, whenever an organization comes and has an ask of the city and asks them to participate, whether it's by allowing them to use certain real estate or property or to involve man hours for in-kind services, those sorts of things. Anytime the city becomes involved with some event happening, I think the city has the right and probably the obligation to simply ask the question, do you have a COVID plan in place, and could you show us that plan? I think the city also has an obligation to let them know once we've taken a look at that plan, that the city, while we're giving permission to use certain real estate or to allow things to happen out on the streets or use certain personal property of the city, that doesn't by any means make us an insurer of what they're doing, or we're not going to send enforcement officers down and let them know that as far as complying with the governor's orders and taking care of their business, they're going to be responsible for themselves. But as a city, I believe that we have an obligation at least to ask the question and have them show us that a reasonable plan exists before we authorize them to gather people through our permission in town.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do. I suppose, everybody else wants to see the plan. I think having these folks in the street is the best place to have them, because I'm sure the majority probably don't take C-19 as serious as a lot of others. Maybe I'm generalizing, but I know a couple of them. But, I think generally speaking, when they're in the street and they got their wheelers, they are physically distanced. If they're lined up from first to third, as a people up here, we are generally physically distanced when we hang out, when we gather. Just kind of pay attention next time. You're really not in people's faces. So, having an outdoor festivity, I think 2 a.m. is a little late to have the street closed, maybe 12, but I do agree that they should at least come forward with a plan saying that they are going to treat this seriously and respect the orders.
Brian, quick question for you. What are the has the gathering numbers changed since Governor Walz implemented the gathering of 250 for a wedding, allowing churches to be at a certain capacity, Has any of those numbers changed?
Currently, and maybe more specifically, I think the number we're looking at now is my understanding is that the current restriction on an outdoor gathering is 250 people with social distancing observed. And so I think with regard to weddings, religious ceremonies, and the like, I think it's a percentage of the total fire capacity of the facility where you are. But as far as the outdoor gatherings, like it sounds like maybe contemplated here, my understanding is 250 in observation of social distancing.
Okay. So I guess oh no, that's okay. I guess I guess I lean with Adam on this one. I'd like to see a plan, and I'm fine with not voting on it tonight if that's the way that people want to go. But you know, if they're under that 250 number, I don't see a big issue with it. Personally, that's just my opinion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
I just want to get it straight that I'm for this. I'm not saying I'm not. I just need to see their plan, what their plan is going to be in order for us to go ahead and vote on this. I can't vote on it without seeing a plan.
I don't know how much clearer they can make it is my concern. I mean, they've hit every bullet point of the governor's order with social distancing, masks, hand sanitizers, outdoor activities so they can social distance. If we give them a thing and they fill out a COVID plan, they're going to say the same thing. You know, I mean, this goes back to my original email to the attorney. How much are we going to be there taken responsible for their COVID plan? You know, basically everything they've said in this thing. Like I said, I don't have a problem asking them for a plan, but all they're going to do is take these last two paragraphs and rewrite them and say, here's the deal. The bars have a COVID plan already. They can only have so many people in there. If they're in there, they have, if you're, you know, there's specific COVID guidelines for an establishment. And there's specific COVID guidelines for outside.
Yeah, I'd like to see those specific guidelines of what they're going to do. How are they going to monitor it? How are they going to limit for the social gathering? How are they going to, you know, I just want to make sure that they have their, you know, things done. Anybody can say, yeah, I got a COVID plan. But what is that COVID plan? You know, I'm sure it says a few things here, but it doesn't go into detail how they're going to enforce any of it.
So, Mr. Mayor, I kind of agree with you. And then, I mean, yeah, they're not going to hire a security for him to, you know, enforce it. But they said this is what we're going to have in place. So, what are we looking for? We're looking for a motion to accept this.
I don't want to. I'm not trying to, you know, crowbar this through. Okay. Well, I believe event, and I believe they hit most of the bullet points. I believe if we want a better plan, I mean, I don't want to stop their progress right now. They're trying to, you know, this is a huge event. This is like a national organization with planning. They got to get tents and everything else if they're going to do this outdoors. If we want an actual sheet that's their COVID plan, I mean, we can request that make this contingent on that. I'm okay with that. They may not even need it by September, whatever it is, 18th or whatever.
19th, yeah.
You know, I mean, if the governor doesn't renew his order on September 11th, it's all a moot point.
Okay. How does the rest of the council feel if they come back with a plan? If we do a contingent, what do you think of the timeline? 8 to 2?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
And I don't mean to offend anybody. To me, their plan, I agree with you, their plan is in this request. I want a citywide festival. I asked for it earlier. Every weekend should be a citywide festival in Chisholm, I think, in the summer. So if it's citywide festival, people wear masks, what more can you ask?
Yeah, and I don't know if he mentioned it in here. He told it to me personally that, you know, originally they had eaten inside, or they served inside. It was, you know, go up to the trough and feed yourself. They're actually having people doing the serving this year, and in one door, out the other door, everything outside. They're actually, as part of their deal, they're actually selling face coverings that are both for riding, but it's actually a face covering. Like I said, if we wanted to put it on a separate sheet so that we can make a final approval on it, I can tell you this organization would have absolutely no problem with it.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make the motion to approve the citywide festival request for the Schnorr Mudfest and close streets 3rd Avenue through 1st Avenue?
And I think there was one to go backwards 1 block on 1st Street, wasn't it, along the side of Tom and Jerry's?
Yeah, 2nd Avenue Southwest, 1st Street Southwest, approximately 8 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Plan, that's a specific COVID plan?
Yes.
Approved COVID plan? How's that?
Sounds good.
Back.
Support.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's what everybody was looking for, is a COVID plan anyway.
Mr. Mayor, that would be an approved COVID plan with the Attorney Lindsay's final kind of like going through it, correct?
Yeah, we don't ever see it again if it doesn't get through him.
And then, this gentleman here writes on the back, he states, if the city requires any additional measures which will allow us to hold the event, please do not hesitate to let us know so that appropriate measures can be taken. So he seems very compliant about wanting, to take the right measures. So I think asking for the COVID plan, and like Councillor Campbell was stating, how are they going to, help me out, Tracy, how are they going to supervise and make sure? Are they going to hire a police officer or somebody to make sure that they're complying with the Governor Walz's orders?
If we're going to get to the point where we're asking them to hire people to enforce these orders, then I will leave that off of my motion.
But you're looking at 200 people, Adam. 200 people.
Well, we have and the governor's orders are 250 plus, and studies have shown that outdoor gatherings are less likely to spread COVID. Look at all the protests in the street. A lot of those are not spreading COVID. There's studies out there. That's not where it's being spread.
No one's, we're not going to argue COVID. All I'm saying is we've got other community people in this town that we need to think of to make sure that they're safe. And I want to see a COVID plan, or I'm not going to support it. That's all. I support this whole thing, except I need to see a COVID plan. So I can ensure that we're going to keep our other community members in this town safe, and not just these few people that are coming here. There's other people to think about.
Well, that's fine, but to ask a security service to enforce it. Travis, did you have security at your drive-in?
Nobody's asking for security service. We're just asking how they're going to enforce it. That's all I want to see. I didn't tell them to go hire a service. You're getting...
Okay, so you have a motion in support to allow the event contingent on an approved COVID plan, specific COVID plan, which will come back to the council, which I think is what we're all asking for in a different way. And we'll take that up as a separate item.
When people drink, people get careless. People get, it's going to be drinking on the street and stuff. You know how that goes. We're not all new here.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say I am not looking for a COVID plan, so I'm not involved with the others. So,
all right, but I still need your vote for the event. Okay. All right, Margaret. Let's get this done. We'll take a vote.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye, contingent on the COVID plan.
Councillor Baki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye, without a COVID plan.
Councillor Campbell.
No.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. All right. That motion passes, and we'll get the promoters to bring back a COVID plan, submit it to Bill and Brian to be brought up at the next meeting. Anything we need to talk about? Miscellaneous coming up. That let me say something about miscellaneous. I just if I could say anything of great value to my council, it would be that your city staff, with COVID surrounding them right now, with Bill Manny and Brian Lindsay spending about 60% of their time dealing with COVID and trying to get things opened and learning information and everything else. If I could say anything that would be of great value to the council, it would be take a step back, take a couple of deep breaths, and unless it's really important, let's just slow down a little bit because we got to let them catch up. We're really laboring the entire staff right now. That's what I would add for miscellaneous tonight, just to help them out. We got many things with the Redhead, the campground, the Bruce Mine Park, the COVID, this event. This is going to be another one. We're trying to open buildings. We got the senior citizens ready to come over and protest outside of Bill's office. So it's we got the arena we're trying to open. So it's just so please try to help out the staff. Council, anything miscellaneous we should be talking about in the future here that
I'm not sure if I should speak now or not.
Well, you know, we got to do the important things, Travis. I understand that. We all understand that.
I got like 4 things. I don't know if I should say it or not, Bill. All right. So, one thing that I've talked to a couple people in the community about, and this can be done probably through Larry or maybe the PUC, is the garbage and the recycling amounts that people are charged on their bill. And so I think that with the new garbage system, we need to make it very clear, the base charge, and then what's coming when you get dumped. The base charge is going to be the big thing. Because I think there's some people who don't think they're going to be charged at all if they don't put their garbage can out to get dumped. So I just want to nip that right away. The recycling part of that is I've been told by people that their recycling has not gone down. And so I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't looked at their bill. That's just something that I've been told, which it should have by now, I would assume. So that was one item that I had. The second item is just an informational point for Margaret. For next agenda under myself, you can put Chamber Cash Initiative. And then we already talked about the budget, so I don't have to bring that up. 2 other small points. One is the empty lot by Anderson Furniture. I would like to have a brief discussion at the next meeting about purchasing that lot, dealing with the community foundation. We had a community foundation meeting today, and they asked me to talk about that. And the last thing is, and probably the one I shouldn't even announce, but I'm going to anyway, is with the building opening part. And that's the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I had somebody argue to me that if I'm going to send my kid to school, why is City Hall not open? So I'll leave it at that. I don't even know, it doesn't have to go on the agenda. I just want you to know that that is something that was brought to my attention.
Travis, let me just...
I'm not sending my kids. I just want to make that clear, Trav. But we have the option.
Let me just talk to a couple of different points with the garbage. When the request was sent out for the size garbage can people are asking, a lot of that was pretty clear. And I think it's a good note because as we get closer to actually utilizing that, we should do it. We'll have to do another mailer of what that I think it means. So if Larry's still on here, I'm assuming we can do that with the PUC again. What was the other part with recycling? Oh, the recycling itself. Keep in mind I believe the recycling went down a little bit this year, but we still had that $20,000 in the budget, which is going to drop off after we increase the size of that recycling area. So I believe Bill can chime in if he wants to, but I believe it went down a little bit and it's going to go down. It's projected to go down more when we renew in next January or whatever. Bill, would that be correct?
That is correct, Mayor. So if somebody said that, Councilor Vaki, their recycling bill did not go down, that is not correct. Their bills did go down. They will go down even more next year.
And if they didn't, it's just a clerical error, and they should contact Denise first or you get the information to us and we will confirm with Denise, because as administrators Manny said, they did go down considerably.
And then Travis, obviously the opening of these buildings is, I mean, that's what Bill's working on a daily basis. I would agree with you. We need to start looking at getting them back open. I think Bill in the back of his mind is thinking we're going to have to figure out how to isolate our employees from the residents, like most communities do already, and possibly use some of that CARES money to do that. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just comment on Travis's, or he's the one that asked about City Hall opening?
Yes.
Well, if our city employees get sick, we have nobody to replace them, for one thing. And we don't have any, do we have plexiglass? I haven't been up there. Do we have plexiglass and everything in place for their security? I mean, there's all kinds of things we'd have to do. There's nobody to replace them if they get sick. Just putting that out there.
Tracy, you know, since the last governor's order, we actually had to go backwards a little bit. Our employees are basically now required, I mean, we're having them wear masks, and in order for them to have their mask off, they have to be in their own cubicle. So Larry Pervenanzi actually put plexiglass around Christy and Denise so that they can sit without a mask. And we're requiring them to wear a mask if they have, if like somebody like Mandy leaves her office and walks out to talk to Margaret or walks over to talk to Denise. So
likewise at my company too, we have to wear masks.
You know, when the mask mandate came in, it made it worse for trying to open that building. So, you know, I won't speak for Bill, but I think right now he's just waiting to see if some things start loosening up, because it really changes. I mean, right now, we can't open City Hall without putting plexiglass up to isolate them. And it just, I mean, there's, which is a big project. To even try to get somebody to do that project right now might be hard. So, you know, like I said, it's on the top of the list because we know it's one of the most important things. But it's right now with the governor's order, we cannot do it the way it is right now. So we have additions to make, or we have to wait till they loosen up. Bill, would that be somewhat correct?
Yeah, that's a fair statement, Mr. Mayor. And also, I talked to Brian, Attorney Lindsay, on a regular basis and just ask him what other communities are doing, what's happening out there. One of my concerns, in addition to protecting, it's not only protecting our staff, but also protecting the public. It becomes a two-way street. But, you know, at City Hall, we have two entrances, and right now there's a mask ordinance in place. We open the door and somebody comes in and they don't have a mask on. What do? There were procedures laid out yesterday at the election on what we do. But if that happens and they enter the building, we can't have somebody standing manning both doors. So there are a number of challenges that have to be thought through. But I'm in constant communication with Attorney Lindsay asking what other communities are doing. And I'll let Attorney Lindsay speak here, but basically the only thing that people are doing different, unless something changed since the last time I had the conversation with Attorney Lindsay, are some people that are appointment based, and they set the guidelines and allow people in on an appointment basis only. And that's only city halls that I'm aware of that are open in the area are just on that basis.
Brian, you got anything to add?
No, I think that is a fair statement. A lot of places are appointment only. I know there's many cities that are trying to get back open up, but I mean, with the challenges that Administrator Manny's outlined, there are a lot of challenges that aren't readily apparent that we've got to think through before we open things up wholesale.
Right, and I guess I wouldn't, you know, I mean, I'm just telling you that's what someone said to me. That doesn't mean I believe it. You know, I mean, I trust Bill in whatever you need to do, but, you know, I know where I work, because school is opening, they're opening on appointment basis, you know, but we are at least open. Someone from the public, as long as they're wearing the mask and whatever, they could come in. So just saying, you could get an argument from that down the road. Maybe you won't. Maybe it was just the one person talking to me, but just want to keep it on your radar. That's all.
No, everybody's getting tired, Travis. They're getting tired. They're getting tired with this. It's very
I would ask a question. If before we spend thousands of dollars separating employees, maybe we should just go down to Jubilee and see what they did, because they're doing a pretty good job. All these other companies that have 18-year-old kids in the line of fire, making $12 an hour, they can go to work, and deal with the public every day. We got professionals. And I get Tracy, I told you, I spaced on Tracy's comment. Yeah, we don't have many people to replace them. So never mind, I'll shut my mouth.
Council, ready to adjourn?
Mayor?
I mean, it's good questions. It's frustrating. Did somebody chime in? Sorry.
Yep, Mayor. I have one item if I could.
Yep.
And not to make this meeting any longer or to delay things, if we could go back and revisit item D1 under Councilor Vaki. We had the second reading for ordinance, the Ordinance 74 amendment, and there was a motion made, and it sounded like that motion may have been to acknowledge the second reading. If the council wishes at this point, there could be an affirmative motion to approve that change, which has to follow the second reading. So it may have been implied by that first motion, but I just would like to protect the record and make sure that it's clear for purposes of the effectiveness of the ordinance that we have a clear motion to approve the change.
Margaret, could you tell me who made the motion and the support, please?
Yes, Councilor Vaki made the motion and Councilor Lance supported the motion.
Councilor Vaki, was it your intentions that the second reading was both approved and the ordinance change would be approved as well?
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
would that be, if Councilor Lance says yes as well, is this appropriate to clarify that? Or do you want me to do something additional?
So long as no one objects and wishes and expresses the desire to change their vote, then that would be effective.
Okay, Councilor Lance, was that your understanding that we were approving a second reading and we were making a change to the ordinance as well?
Yes.
Council, is there anybody on the council that I believe we all voted in favor of this? Was there anybody that did not understand that that was the intent of that motion and support? Margaret, could you make the appropriate correction to the motion so that it states that we approve the second reading and we made change to the ordinance, and of course it'll be posted as needed.
Yes, I will make that change to adopt the ordinance changes.
And thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for indulging me.
Thank you, Brian. Council, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I have one thing.
Go ahead. Councilor.
As Chief Brown mentioned, it's my 10-year anniversary in the fire department, and I am done September 1st. So next agenda, I'll be looking to make Adam Lance the new fire department liaison for the fire department.
Okay. Margaret, could you know, Margaret, I think we need to do that by motion too, don't we? Or
At the next meeting, we would.
okay, so why don't we note that so we'll get it on the agenda. So, and congratulations, Jim, by the way.
Thank you.
That's not something that I could probably do. It's just, even if I was younger, it's a tough deal.
Mayor Jim Johnson?
Yes, Jim.
It's not for the council meeting, but after you adjourn, if Brian and Bill and yourself would stay on for just a few minutes to discuss the easement on 3rd Street Northwest project. It's nothing confidential. It's just not part of the agenda for tonight. Thank you.
All right. Council, look for a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Bucky, second. Bowden, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, that motion carries to adjourn unanimously. Everybody have a great night.
Good night.
everybody.
Good night.